guys. Hopefully Willie can join. All right. It says you're joining, Willie. Yay!
I would take off your glasses. You can see the ring.
Okay. Well, I can't see anything. Hey, Alejandra! How are you? Oh, yeah, you can see the ring. Okay, well, we're just gonna not see. Well, I'm excited you guys are here. We'll see who else tunes in. I'm gonna give everybody a few minutes. I don't know if we're gonna have like a big audience or not, so it may just be us three. Alex.
Give it a few minutes.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. All right, we're going to give it like another minute. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Oh, good. Yes, tell him to tune in. It's I told all the husbands. I had a lot of ladies excited about it, but I told like to tell their husbands that they should be watching as well, or their boyfriends. Hey, Ashley. What's up, Finsky? So yeah, because I think William's going to provide a really awesome perspective on men and, you know, the man's perspective on all of this if you're trying to get this going for your family. But anyway, okay, we have some folks in here. We're going to get started. You guys start mulling over some questions. What?
There's feedback. Someone needs to mute.
Oh.
There's feedback, so someone needs to mute their microphone.
Okay, hold on. I feel like an old person doing this, guys. This is like our first time, so like bear with us. All right, are you good now? Are you good now, William?
I'm getting a lot of feedback. It could just be.
It's probably you. I'm not getting any feedback at all. All right, so I'll get started. Basically, so we decided to do this kind of Q&A discussion about how we got started in this business and, you know, how we've been doing this over the last 10 years, what's been successful, some of our failures, because there's a lot of failures along the way. So yeah, William just dropped off. Okay. So, you know, I wanted to share that with all of you, and having William here, I think is going to give you guys a really good perspective, because I know you guys hear from me, especially for, you know, good friends who work together. But anyway, so I'll let kind of William take the floor first and talk. I wanted to introduce ourselves, introduce our business, and then kind of walk you through what the last 10 years have looked like, I guess. And then we can answer any questions you guys have. Okay, go ahead, Willie.
I got to show everyone my desk first.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, funny story is that like we planned on doing this together, but in true like fashion and form of this business, he's at a house right now working on it, and I'm at home putting the babies down. I just put them down. So like that just kind of tells you the type of work ethic you need to have. Yes. So, you know, we planned it, but hey, these houses take precedence sometimes. Go ahead, Willie.
Here's my prop. Piece of sheetrock. Sammy will appreciate this. I see he's on.
He is on.
Yeah, so I think I'll start with like our background story and just kind of how we got started in this, and then go into like the details around the numbers, specifically around the BRRRR method, which is an acronym. So for us, we got started back in 2010. I bought my first place when I was a single gentleman, traveling all the time. So I basically lived at home and was trying to find my own place, and found an auction house. So it was being foreclosed on in 2010. So the 2009 financial crisis hit a lot of people. So found a foreclosure property, basically bought it sight unseen, and then spent 2 years renovating it up while I was traveling. I got into this from my parents who, did their own rentals and whatnot. And when I was a teenager, my summer job would be to like work on the houses with them. So I got some firsthand experience that way. And that's really kind of what got me into it. And I guess gave me the confidence to understand, that we could do this, because it is daunting. It's a lot of work. And so you got to kind of know what you're getting into and not be scared away. So the question is like, well, how do you buy your first house, right? Or how do you buy an investment property? And that's where the BRRRR method comes into play. So this stands for buy, renovate, rent, and then refinance, and then repeat.
And we'll get into that a little bit more in a minute.
Yeah. So you buy a property, right? You renovate it to fix it up, so make it worth more than what you purchased it for. You rent it, so then you rent the property, and I'll get into some of these rules down here about the purchasing and whatnot. You refinance it, so you essentially take your money back out of it and put that back into your pocket, and then you repeat. So once you have the refi, you get your money back, and then you can essentially keep rolling this into a new property, right? And so there's a few rules that I didn't come up with. I mean, you can Google these or whatever.
Willie, sorry, can we talk a little bit more about like your background, my background, and then before we go into BRRRR?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, like William was saying, his background was in, he grew up doing these things, fixing homes. His parents owned houses in the fan, and so he kind of grew up painting houses, cleaning them, and kind of, getting them ready for the next tenant. My story is not like that. So for all of you folks that, were not raised with parents that did all these amazing things and did all their renovations and did most of their work and were connected to, repairmen and handymen, and that was not where we came from. I am from El Salvador. I don't know if most of you know. I think most of you all know. And I came to the States when I was 4. So my parents were immigrants. I didn't know much English when I came. I actually took 1 year of ESL when I got to the United States. So, I came from a very different background of, we kind of left with the shirts on our back, and we left on political asylum to come to the United States for a better life for our kids. Is what my parents were hoping for. So, kind of coming from that background of really not knowing what America was, what it held, what a credit score was, what a loan was, any of those things, that's kind of how I grew up. So I really had to, get with it and grow up pretty quickly in terms of, figuring out the dynamics for my parents and my family. So that's it. I didn't come from that background, but what I did come from, and what, reflecting back on my past, is I realized that I was designing and making things beautiful since I was very young. So, anytime we moved, anytime my mom needed help, placing furniture, artwork, shot, like anything, I was always the one that was designing the space. I was always the one picking this out, picking out the lights, picking out the couch. It was always me staging, designing, doing all those things that I didn't realize I was doing. It just came naturally to me, and I really loved it. So, I always have that inside me. It's just kind of come out more now that we've had this opportunity to do this. So that's my background. So fast forward, to meeting William in 2011, and then, starting our relationship in 2012, we pretty much jumped right into, renovating, and he kind of, I was like, oh God, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know how to like do all these things that you guys do. Like, I can't, fix this and change this outlet and like do all this stuff. I felt very overwhelmed. And so I wanted to learn though, because I was very interested. And I was like, this is a world I've never like been a part of. Like, you guys like do your own handyman stuff. I joke and I call my dad Tim the Toolman Taylor, because all of his like repairs are kind of ghetto rigged. But anyway, yeah, so I was really
Sammy's me.
What'd you say?
He's on.
So when I met William, I was really excited to have met someone that like was so great with their hands and just knew what he was doing, right? And so that kind of took off. But yeah, I'll let him kind of talk more about how we started those first few years. I think it's important, and that's kind of what people want to hear.
You're talking about the finance portion now?
Yeah, I think the financing, and I can talk about the other portions of it too. But you're the
yeah.
Hi, Ashley. Sorry, go ahead.
So as my prop here shows, if you're going to get into investments, I think probably the best method, at least that we've found, is the BRRRR method, because once you get started, you don't really have to make new money or work to get new money to continue to purchase assets and eventually, turn those assets into wealth. So as you kind of go through the BRRRR method, like there's a few principles that you got to get into. Like, I'll start just defining some of the things I've already written down here. So the 1% rule for rentals essentially says that your goal should be to get 1% of the purchase price of the home, or Sammy's texting me.
Yeah.
Or the 1% of the value of the house in rent. So in the example that we're going to go through, let's say you have a $250,000 house that's valued at that. Your goal would be to get $2,500 out of that. Now, is that achievable? For some people, yes. I think for us, it's very hard, especially in the market that we're in now. So, I wouldn't shy away from a property because you couldn't get to the 1% rule. But just keep that in mind. That's always a good goalpost or a good goal to have. And then the second piece is, when you're looking at the buy, the max amount that you should be paying or spending on the house is 70% of the ARV, or average retail value. And so that includes the purchase of the house and any renovations that you have to go into. So you buy, you spend some money, you renovate it, you increase the value, multiple folds of what you put in, you rent it to where it's cash flow positive. And so then you're making money every single month on the money that you invested, just like you would, for stock, for example. The whole intent of investing there is to have your money make more money. So your rent is part of your rent is part of the way that you get a return. You refinance, like I said, to take money out, so to get your initial investment back out. And then you use that money that you just pulled out with your refi to repeat the process and start all over. So I'm going to go through an example on the back side of my board here.
Yeah. And this is, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. This is a great way to start, especially if you already own a home and you haven't refinanced it yet and you're trying to get into this investment game, especially with rates still being so low. This is we were doing this when rates were like, I don't know, 7%, 8%, something like that. So this is a great time to use that one investment that you have already to work for you and make money for you. So get that money out. We also in the past, and he can talk more about this, I'm just trying to like reflect back on the past years and how we started, is we did HELOCs as well. So, that's something that's always an option as well. But again, there's nothing like refinancing. It's a no-brainer. And you can, so this, and I'm going to save the questions for the end. I see you have a question on hand, so I'll answer it when we're towards the end. Thanks for putting in the question. Go ahead,
Am I
Willie.
back?
Sorry. Yeah.
So I'm going to take this example. We're going to say, so we're going to buy a house. The comps would show like the average retail value of a house, you know, a normal house in that area is 200,000, right? So if you apply the 70% rule there, you'd want to spend your goal for maximum, like what you're going to spend on this house should be 70% of that. And that's 140,000. And so that also includes the renovations, right? So you gotta take into account how much you're going to spend to fix it up. And so, you know, if you're thinking about like, what does a typical renovation look like? I mean, the best place to put your money is kitchen and bathrooms, right? And so if you're going to do that, you know, you're probably going to spend anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000 on the kitchen, you know, $5,000 to $10,000 on the bathroom. So in this example, like we'll say that we're going to spend $40,000 there. And so then your purchase price then would want to be your 140 minus your reno cost. And so that's going to put you at 100K, right? And so you'd make an offer for 100K. And like the trouble here is like, how do you find a house for 100,000? I mean, this is just an example, right? But you could argue that, you know, how do you find a house that's selling for half of what the average retail value in the neighborhood is? And that's where like the principle that I would, you know, everyone should be thinking about is that money's made on the buy, it's not made on the purchase. So you shouldn't be looking at like, what can I sell it for? You should be looking at what can I buy it for? And then have that be like where you start. Don't start at how much money can I make with the sale. You really want to look at like, how much can I buy? How cheaply can I buy it for? And then the sale piece should really take care of itself. So,
Which is hard to do in this market.
Yeah. But I mean, you know,
challenging.
We find gyms and whatnot.
Yeah. And that's kind of, you know, another thing is get out there. Like I'm going to sprinkle these kind of like, things throughout this conversation, these recommendations as they kind of come to my mind is, you know, some of you guys here, you know, that networking is like the number one thing. I mean, you have to network with the folks that are out there doing the thing. So the fact that you're here is awesome. You know, you have to kind of build those connections because through those conversations, you're going to find those connections for that next person or that next buy and that next house. For example, here's a great story. So we bought a duplex, 715 North Meadow in the Fan, and it was listed in a crazy market. It was February of last year. And it was, I mean, you know, where Whole Foods is, it's like the heart of everything that's going on over there. There was one picture on MLS and
picture too.
It was an exterior picture. And so I contacted the agent as an agent. And I said, hey, you know, what's the deal? Cause I thought, what, you know, I was like, this must be really bad inside. And he was like, yeah, it's not great. And so I was like, oh, okay. Like I was preparing myself. So he's like, well, the owner still lives in the downstairs apartment. So, you know, you go, she'll let you in, she'll show you both apartments, the one she lives in downstairs and the one that she was renting. There's no one there now. I said, okay, great. So I meet her and she is just one of the sweetest ladies. Her and I hit it off because, you know, I like chatting with people. You guys know me. I try to be personable and kind, and we chat and, you know, she's showing me around and I'm showing her pictures of the girls and, you know, we just completely hit it off. We still stay in touch now. And I said, you know, what do you want for this house? I was like, I feel like you know, you just don't, this is a lot for you. You've been here 20 years. This is a lot. Yeah. Hi, Dale. So she said, you know what, I gave her a price and it was way below what it was listed for. And she said, okay, yeah, write it up. I'll talk to my realtor. And we got it. And we ratified that night. So, you know, that's, again, the owner being there, the decision maker, but it was her and her daughter. So it wasn't just her. It had to go through a couple of hands. But, you know, the point being that have these conversations because you never know what's going to happen. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, you don't know unless you try, right? And so you got lucky on that one. So I'm going to keep walking through like our example, right? So let's say we bought it for 100, right? We put in 40. At that point, you know, in this hypothetical example, you know, you fix it up, you do all the nice touches, like the property is essentially worth 250,000. And so it's obviously great. It's worth more than, you know, the average out there. And so then if you do the math on that, right? And so you spend 140, but you're going to refinance at your max loan to value, which for an investment property is 80%. So when you refinance, you'll be able to get out 80% of the 250. And when you do that, you can then withdraw, like they'll give you a check essentially for 210,000. Sorry, they'll give you that will be your loan amount, right? And so you say, okay, I got 210,000 now, and then you look at that and say, well, what did I invest, or what did I spend? You take out your 140,000, and you're essentially left with, what is that, $70,000, right? So you take your 140 that you just spent, and then you have $70,000 in wealth. Then you have $70,000 in wealth that was just created with your investment. And so you do the math on that, it's like, I don't know, 45, 50% return on investment, which obviously is huge. Like the stock market's not going up 50%, your stock's not going up 50% every year. And you can do that multiple years. And so now you have an additional $70,000 in your bank account. And then you can do that to, again, go buy the next one. And again, repeat the process of the BRRRR. And like in this example, you know, if we're saying we're going to try to hit the 1% rule, you know, we're saying the house is now worth $250,000, like your mortgage on your $200,000 or $210,000 loan is going to be $1,200–1,300. You know, do I think you could probably rent it for $250? No, like I wouldn't say that. But even if you can get it for, you know, $2,000, like you're still going to cash flow, or even $1,800, like you're still going to cash flow, you know, $500–600 a month. And so that's a really great return on your investment there.
Can we stop or the questions are piling up, so I'm gonna answer a few and shoot some out to you, William. So Alejandra asked, how soon can you refinance once you buy? And it's all dependent on the lender. I mean, some lenders want you to wait 6 months, some lenders there's no waiting period. So it just depends on the lender. I mean, we've refinanced pretty much right away in some situations. So, you know, it just depends on the lender, but there's usually no wait time.
Yeah. I mean, like, you gotta, how soon can you refinance after you purchase it? There's really no time period.
Yeah.
Like,
you have to factor in the time that you're going to renovate, right? Like, that's the time period that you would be waiting, essentially.
Yeah, because you don't want to renovate before you fixed it up and added the value. But I think the other question would be, like, even if you want to refinance multiple times, like back to back, like, you know, we've done that just because rates drop so quickly. I think the rule of thumb, and this is from my lender, is, you know, if the rates dropped half a point, or you can get half a point less, then it's probably a good idea if you're going to hold on to the property for long term. Like if you're just going to sell it in 2 years or 3 years, you know, it's probably not going to make financial sense, because every time you refinance, there's closing costs associated. So it's anywhere like 3 to 5% of the loan amount. And so, you know,
and your mortgage payment goes up.
Yeah. And that's adding to your loan. And so you got to, you know, you can do the math and the return for how soon you should refinance. And that's what the math is how much is my closing cost versus how much is it going to lower my monthly payment. And it'll tell you a number of months, right? It's probably, you know, like for us, it's been like 3 years, which, you know, if we're going to hold on to it, that makes sense. I think we've done one that was 5 years, and it's, you know, you know, if we're going to hold on to it for 10, 20 years. So like 5 years is fine from a return.
Yeah, this is like you know, it's a long game, right? Like, and we'll talk a little bit about flipping too, but most of our success has been in BRRRR. That's why we're kind of hitting this, because this is definitely the long game. This is to build generational wealth. That's really the idea here, to compound and compound and compound.
Or not to have a day job.
Right, to retire hopefully soon. So Ashley has a question. I'll give this one to you, Willie. My question is, how does hard money lending work when doing BRRRR, but doing it for a rental property where you're not selling it as a flip? How do you pay the hard money lender back?
Yeah, good question. So we haven't done I guess we have. So you can get non-conventional loans or hard money loans, and they're essentially, you know, think of it like a credit card, right? You say, hey, like, I need to borrow, in this example, it'd be like $140,000. You know, what's different about them is that the time periods are shorter, and that the interest rate's higher than what a traditional mortgage is, right? So like traditional mortgages now are like 4%. I mean, you're talking 10%, you know, 15%,
like
but
10
even
to
then,
15, yeah.
Yeah, but what you do is you take a hard money loan for, like, if it's going to take you 60 days to refinance it, like, you're only going to pay that interest period for those 2 months. So what you do is you get a hard money loan, and then you would refinance, and with the lender, you'd let them know that you have a loan on the property. You'd have the documents for it and whatnot, and you would take that money, and when you're at closing, you could have them wire, whoever it is, the amount that you owe them. So the principles still apply. Like, it's all the same. You would just pay that person back. So you'd pay them back on that. In this example that I showed you, like, you needed to borrow all 140 of this money, right? And so you'd say that that's your hard money loan. 10% of that is what, I don't know, $1,400, right? So you're paying $1,400 a month in addition, like, to borrow that money. But then when you cash out, so you'd pay your lender the 140,000, but then you'd still walk away with 70 grand in your pocket. So, like, you still would walk away with the 70,000. So then next time maybe you don't have to have a hard money lender, because you can buy an investment. The rule is you got to put 20% down. So,
and 25 if it's a multifamily.
Yeah. So, like, in this example, like, if we're going to buy it not using a hard money lender, let's say you had cash, like, how much cash would you need? Sorry, if we're going to buy it for 100 is what I said. How much money would you need? You'd need 20 grand, right? So then you could take that 70,000, you'd take 20 off of that. You'd be left with 50, which would then pay for your $40,000 in renovations. So you could, if you have, 70 grand, you can essentially run this scenario here.
Yeah, that's great, William. Thank you. Kat said, hi, Kat. So this is assuming you bought the property with all cash to start with. No, it is not. We have bought properties with all cash. We've done like a hard money lender situation. We've also done, just an actual refi on like a conventional mortgage. Right? Right? Am I right on that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is pretty much applies to all of those scenarios.
So, like, the place I'm working on now, we bought it in December with a traditional loan. As long as the appraisal comes in, to what you're asking or the loan amount that you need, you can get a traditional loan, and then, we're going to refinance this in the next 30 days. It's like we've had it for 4 months. So it'll be, 120 days or so that we've had it, and then we'll do a refinance.
Ashley said, okay, so essentially you're almost always doing a cash out refi in order to pay yourself back to purchase another. Yes.
Yeah. So the better solution, honestly, is to do a HELOC, because what's nice about a HELOC is that you're not paying. So let's say, for example, like in this one, we have a house that's worth $250,000 now. Instead of doing a loan for all 250, like, you could just do it for your 140, which is what you've spent, right? And then you still have $70,000 worth of value. Like, you could do a HELOC on that 70,000, and what's nice about that is that you only pay interest on that when you withdraw or when you use that money.
Yeah, whatever you withdraw is what you pay interest on.
Yeah, so instead of paying a mortgage of 210 in our example, you're paying a mortgage of $140,000. Which your principal interest is going to be much lower. The problem with HELOCs now is that Fannie and Freddie changed their rules, and so a lot of banks don't want to do HELOCs. So, like, I've tried to get HELOCs, and they basically said no. Yeah. And there's a lot of rules that are associated with that. Like, lenders don't want to do a HELOC if they're not the primary lender. So, like, for example, if you have Wells Fargo and then you go to like Navy Federal, like Navy Federal won't do a HELOC because they're not the primary lender. Where, like, if you go into foreclosure, the primary person gets paid first. So the only time I've been able to get a HELOC is when the bank was the primary loan holder and the HELOC holder. And that was, that was done 10 years ago or 8 years ago or something like that. Yeah. So
they're a lot harder to come by now, for sure.
Yeah. Like, HELOCs are better, but it's just harder to get, at least in my experience.
Hey, Giles. Giles asked, with refinancing, what does the lender qualification look like? So it just depends. It depends on how many mortgages you have. It's this, and you can tell us more too, William, because we just went through this together. But They're pretty much the same unless you have, what, 7 or more mortgages, right? You have to have a 720 or higher credit score.
Yeah.
If you have 7 or more mortgages, then it starts to get a little tough. So at that point is, you know, that's a good heads up. So yeah, other than that, it's pretty similar to just a regular pre-qual.
I think some of the things that you got to not worry about, but think about for rentals is that the rental income, you can consider it as income, right? So like if I have a loan on this one, which is like $1,300 and I'm renting it for $1,800, like I could argue that I'm making $600. And so, you know, that's great. Like I'm making extra money, like that loan's covered. But they'll only, at least my lender, it could be, I don't know about others, but like they'll calculate your income based on 80% of what you're renting it for. And that's for them to hedge a bit, right? For like vacancies and stuff like that. And so when they look at your debt to income, like that'll play into it. So you might show like, hey, I'm making $1,000 a month, but they're going to say, they're not going to calculate it as 1,000. They're going to calculate it as 800.
Yeah. And 80% seems to be where they like to land. Like he was saying, you know, 80% of your rental income is counted as actual income. So you're less of a liability. 80%, you're allowed to take out 80% of your refi when you refi that amount. So it's, you know, kind of keep that number in mind. Sorry, we have more questions. I don't want to get bogged down. So with your experience, would it be smart to buy a personal home and then refi and use that money to buy a flip or investment property, or buy investment/flip home first? This is a great question. I'll let you go first, and I'll kind of give you my 2 cents.
I would buy a duplex and live in one unit and then rent the other one. And there's a few reasons, but it mostly has to do with taxes. So for rental properties, you're allowed to expense the principal, interest, and taxes that you pay on it. So you're allowed to show that as essentially like a loss. Yeah. And so it's, you know, if you say, you know, hey, I'm making $1,000 a month on my rental income, that's above what the mortgage is. And, you know, that's for the year, it's $12,000, right? But they will then deduct whatever your principal and interest is from that $12,000. And so in taxes as well, it's like maybe you paid, I don't know, $5,000 in taxes for your interest in personal property taxes or real estate taxes. Like you can deduct that. And so from an IRS perspective, like you only show making $5,000 on the property. And so it'll help your taxes there. And then I think probably like the duplex is the best way to go from a starting perspective, because you can live in one unit and then fix up the other, or vice versa. So you're still generating cash flow while, like, let's say you get a duplex and you don't live in it, right? But you rent up the upstairs for, you know, it's probably going to be about 80% of what your mortgage is. And so you can mitigate your cash flow. Yeah, you can mitigate your cash flow by renting one of those units while you fix up the other.
And that's what we do. And that's what we're doing now. Because, you know, right now, kind of going on another tangent is, you know, we, over the last year and a half and 2 years, things have picked up quite a bit. And we've expanded so much that now we have more properties than we have people to fix them. Which is why William is there right now. Because, you know, that's kind of how we started. We're kind of going back to the way we started, which is kind of full circle now that I'm saying it out loud. It's like, we started doing a lot of these things ourselves, these renovations, you know, a lot of the sweat equity we put into these homes. Then family kind of came in. We met Samuel. Big props to Samuel and his family. He's literally like,
on the chat.
Yeah, he's like literally our right-hand person. You need to find somebody that is like Samuel. Everyone should be like Samuel. Yep. That cares as much about your money and your livelihood and your family as you would, and you're not there. So yeah, find you someone like that. But anyway, so we found Sammy. We kind of were in a great place that, you know, things were moving steady. Like I said, it's a long game. And then things just got crazy, exploded, which is fantastic. But now we're kind of like at the point where, you know, it's like we're starting to lose a little bit of money because we had to take on, because we had to buy, we're like, this house is such a great deal, like we need to do it, right? So it's a fine balance. It's a constant balance. Whether it's, you know, the opportunity is too good to pass, or if the opportunity is worth you potentially losing money down the line because the turnaround time is just not there, right? So like that's something that we're learning very quickly. You know, that's kind of where we are in this stage. So we've kind of, like I said, made a full circle. And now William is starting to do some of the sweat equity because there's just not enough hands on deck. And at the same time, there's just people are extremely expensive as well right now. That's another thing. I know I've talked to a couple of you about that, that it's just crazy expensive to find quality work and people that care and want to do it. So that's another reason why we're just kind of cheap, which is another thing. And we're like, no, sorry, we're going to just do it ourselves. So yeah, so that's my tangent. Huh?
Sammy would tell you that he has to redo all my work anyway.
Yes, Sammy calls it, he's like, I have to do Williams all of his work because he does it 40%. Sammy does it 100%. So yeah, it's hilarious. Anyway, yes, Kat, no worries. We're here for longer. Hi, Jazzy. So Kat, this is our last question that we have right now. She said, how do you decide whether to hold or flip? That's a great question. I'll kind of give William a break. I think we decide to hold dependent on a couple of things. So for me, it's location. For me, it's what obviously the rental potential is. So what that income is going to look like. And then really kind of what the finishes and what the renovations are going to be and how far it's going to take the home, right? Because you have to think a renovation for a flip is going to be very different than a renovation for a rental property. So for a rental property, of course, we strive to always have high-end finishes, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, you know, really redone floors, keeping the original character of the houses, you know, that are, you know, those older homes that we love to work on, keeping their historical value intact. But then there's also, you know, the piece for the flips where it's like, okay, we have to do it to the nines. You really have to just do all of the best high-end finishes to get the most bang for your buck. In this market, sure, some people may argue that may not be the case. I still think that that's the case, you know, because it just shows the quality and the craftsmanship that you put out there. It's our name. So that's how I decide. Most of the time with single family, we've had a tremendous success with single family houses and having great tenants in single family houses. We have had a little bit rougher time, and this is me saying rougher time, where we've had to like evict one person in 10 years with the duplexes and the apartments and renting those out. So, and these are all in the same area. Single families are just what people want. That's what people always want in my experience. So it's always kind of like, depending on the area, single family houses have just been a huge success for us. I mean, we have duplexes too, but you know, it's definitely a case-by-case scenario. I don't know. What else can you add, William?
I mean, I think like one is a short-term, like flipping is short-term, like cash, right? Where, you know, if you think about the housing market and how explosive it's been, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's going up 15% year over year, and that's compounding, right? So it's like compound savings. You're compounding your money every single year. You know, like the first house I bought is fivefold what it's, you know, what I paid for it. And so like, yeah, I could have flipped it and made 50 grand, but you know, why not make 5 times that? So like, I think if you have the ability to hold, like, I don't know why you wouldn't, you know, assuming that it's in a good area and you have good tenants and the house is in good condition. Like, you know, there's all sorts of things that you need to look at, but if you have a good house in a good area, like, to me, there's no reason to sell, assuming that you can make the BRRRR method work, because you're making money like on the refinance, and then, you know, you're lowering your tax exposure with all the benefits that home ownership has. Like, it's
A
the tax
no-brainer.
advantages. Yeah, the tax advantages for
Yeah.
for real estate investing are pretty outrageous.
Something else that came to mind too is, you know, we decided to do a flip, and sometimes, like most recently, we decided to do a flip because we wanted more cash flow. So that's also something that we've discussed, where it's like, okay, like we're kind of hitting, you know, our budgets are getting a little tighter in terms of like the renovation costs. So we really want more cash in hand. And we don't want to wait to refinance, because in order to refinance, we need to renovate this house. So, you know, we're like, okay, how can we earn a quick buck, right? Like nothing's quick anymore, unfortunately. But, you know, how can we kind of cash out, be done, and use that money to buy another house that we can hold? So that's, you know, again, it's constant strategy. It's constant, you know, like evaluation of the market, evaluation of, you know, what you have in the bank, evaluation of, you know, the properties. Again, this is, you know, the long game. It's to create wealth over time. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think this was awesome. You know, we hope to be doing this, you know, a lot more in the near future. I think next time we'll, you know, bring on maybe a lender, because I think it's important to hear from those folks that are, you know, making these things happen and these decisions happen, especially someone that we work with very closely. But if you guys have any questions, you can always reach out to myself or William. I will definitely below drop my email address and his email address. You know, this is kind of what we do. This is what we're passionate about. By no means do we have this recipe to success every single time we do this. Absolutely not. We are still learning and we're still growing. And that's, you know, that's part of it. So that's, you know, plug in with your network is my biggest piece of advice, kind of as we wrap up. Talk to every single person you can, absorb as much knowledge as you can. Read. There's a ton of stuff out there. Will is a big researcher, so I'm sure he can probably drop a couple links in the comments once we jump off of stuff that he likes to kind of refer to. But yeah, we're here for you if you need us.
I think so I dropped the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you should read.
Great book. Yeah.
But I think so, like, I think the last piece is like, great, you can buy a house, but you got to have the right people also. Like if you don't have the right people, you're going to be losing money every single day. So like you got to find the right people. Sammy's been, you know, the person for us. So shout out to you, Sammy. You know, we wouldn't be here without him. But in addition to that, yep, and the family. But I think like it goes beyond the person that you have doing the work as well. Like, you know, Anna's a realtor now, so that saves us 3% on the buy every single time. And, you know, like I can do a lot of the work myself, so that saves us a ton of money on electricians and stuff like that. And so you got to know, like, if you're going to do it, I would say you should probably want to do it yourself, at least the first few times, so that you can learn, you know, the way it's supposed to be. Because even if you hire someone and they do poor work, like you got to know what poor work looks like, or else you're going to be paying to redo it. Like this place on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't be scared to ask for help. You know, I think that's a big thing too. I think everyone in this kind of investor community here in Richmond is awesome, and always is willing to help. You know, we're always open to coming to a project or talking about, you know, what's next, and things to look out for. We're always here to help. So that's kind of, is there any other wisdom you want to drop before we jump off?
I want Sammy to make an appearance. Where are you, Sammy?
Sammy, where is he? Oh, here, I can't add them. For some reason, I can't. I'm looking and I can't add you, Sammy. Sammy, say hi. I can't add you. I don't know. Maybe your camera's not working, but maybe we'll have Sammy on here next time so you guys can chat with him. We can't say enough great things about him. Yeah, he's just an awesome person. And if you want to check out some of our renovations and some of our work, we need to update the website a little bit, but it's rivercityrestorations.com. Check it out. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions about anything, just reach out. Oh, hold on. I do have one question for you. Hold on. I'm like, I could keep this going all night. Where do you see our business going in the next,
Did you ask me a question?
Yes, I did. I said, where do you see our business going in the next 10 years, to wrap it up this time for real?
I'm getting tired now, so.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I mean, the first 10 years have been a lot, so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I think, you know, we definitely plan to slow down a tad bit and kind of ride the wave for a little bit. And then, you know, knowing us, we'll probably get bored and then want to do this all over again
I
like
think
crazy people.
I think we should start doing vacation properties.
There's a thought. Let's do it. Who wants it? Who wants in? All right. We're going to jump off. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And again, I'll put our contact information below, and Willie will put some additional links for you guys to check out. All right. Talk to you later.